All right, so what is a subject to? Also called a sub to. What is a sub to? Well, it's called a sub to or subject to because you, as the investor, are buying or acquiring a property subject to the underlying mortgage. What does that mean? It means you're taking over the payments of the property for a seller. So let's say the seller has a mortgage with Wells Fargo. They owe, say, $160,000 on this mortgage. Their payments are $1,100 a month plus taxes and insurance, and maybe their interest rate's 4%. Their situation is such that they just need to be done with this property. They need to stop the bleeding every month. So you're talking about a seller that's pretty desperate because they're just going to deed the house over to you or put it into a trust and deed it into that trust. You as the investor are taking over the payments on that mortgage. So you're buying the house subject to the underlying mortgage. So sounds pretty good, right? And it can be. But there's some pros and cons. There's some things you need to be aware about on a subject to. One of the things you never ever want to become in real estate is the desperate seller. And anytime you're getting into a property subject to sandwich lease option, rehab even, you're putting yourself in a position where you could become a desperate seller. What does that mean? You got a house and now you've got a monthly nut that you got to pay, right? And you can't get anybody in the house. Your exit strategy isn't coming together. You become the desperate seller, let somebody in the property that you would have never let in if had you not been desperate. You want to be aware of that. So again, subject to, you're buying the property subject to the existing mortgage. There's good things and bad things about it. Just things you need to be aware about. One of the things that is great is you don't have to qualify. You're not applying for a loan. You're literally coming in and taking over those payments for that seller. So that seems pretty great, right? What are some negative things? These are things you've got to look out for. If you're going to do a house, if you're going to take over a house subject to, you have a fiduciary responsibility to that seller to make those payments. I think there's people getting into subject to that shouldn't be getting into subject to. Why? Because they have no money. They don't have any reserves. They have no way to make that payment. That's not good. If you're going to do a subject to or even a sandwich lease option, you better have, I would say, at least 3, maybe 4 months of reserves to make that house payment until you can get someone in that property, whether it's on a wrap, seller finance, rental, lease option, whatever the case may be. So you want a few months of reserves. Something else that you want to be aware of is, of course, due on sale. Now, due on sale, you hear a lot of talk about due on sale. The truth is that most banks don't want the house back. What can really throw up a red flag to the lender is the big thing is actually the insurance. It's not even so much a title change because the mortgage company doesn't have someone on staff going through county records checking title all day. What can throw up the red flag is insurance. You've got to do the insurance right, okay? And that's a whole other video, but you've got to do the insurance properly on a subject to, okay? And you don't want 2 policies on the same house. So that's a big thing. So you want to be aware of this. Also, if the owner is behind on payments, whatever that is, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $10,000, you got to make that up. You got to make those payments up before it goes into foreclosure, right? So you got to come in, be able to make those payments up, or get someone very quickly on a wrap note, seller finance, lease option to bring money to the table, down payment or option fee. So just things you want to be aware of. And lastly, what are you looking for in a subject to? Just because someone says, hey, you can have my house, I'm going to deed it to you, doesn't mean it's a good deal. So what are you looking for? Well, obviously one of the things you're looking for is value of the property versus what do they owe? What's that equity, right? Now you can certainly, just because there's no equity doesn't mean it's not a good deal, but you just want to be aware of that. Other thing you want to look at on the subject to is what are their payments? And the big thing for that is what is the interest rate? So if their interest rate is at 7% and maybe they're 5 months, 6 months behind on payments, you got to come to the table with money to get a house that you're buying for what it's worth, and it's maybe it's going to be hard to get any cash flow out of that property. So is that really a good deal? No, that's probably not a good deal. So you want to look at equity, the payments, the interest rate on that underlying lien. That's the subject to. Love subject to. You just want to know what you're doing. Not recommend subject to for anybody that is just starting off in real estate. I don't recommend sandwich lease options for anybody that's just starting off in real estate either. So if you want to learn more information, I've got a whole bunch of, an entire training actually on some different strategies that we do and systems that we utilize and everything. And even lead generation. You can go to 16kdeals.com. Just an entire free training there, 16kdeals.com. Boom, see you there.